Hey y'all. So today we are going to be analyzing point of view. Our standard is I can explain what effect is created by differences in the points of view of the characters and the reader in chapter 2 excerpt of Summer of the Mariposas. So, sorry. Obviously, we're going to start with our definition. Point of view is our term, and that is the narrator's position in relation to the story being told. So, point of view is often used to indicate the perspective or what the reader sees and experiences about the events and feelings of the character from which a story is told, essentially being the eyes of the narrative voice. So authors often create differences between different characters' point of view as well as your point of view as a reader. That means that if one person is telling the story, maybe they don't see everything that happens, or if you know something that happened in the story, but the people inside of it don't know what happened. Or even, as we're going to find in this text, when the main character, the narrator, so to speak, knows something, but they don't tell the other character things. These differences in point of view between character and the audience can create different effects like suspense or humor. So how does the author use differences in point of view of the characters and the reader to create these effects like suspense or humor? Well, they might use first person point of view, and this is where the author enables the reader to see some events that the other characters don't see. The author also will reveal to the reader what the narrator is thinking or feeling that the characters in the novel don't know. We know the feelings of the narrator, and so this is what creates those effects. The narrator may say one thing to the other people, but we might have some background or more detailed information as to what they're really thinking, how they're really feeling, what they're really going to do. And so these differences create these effects that we're talking about when we refer to point of view. Now, we're going to walk through an example of this. So if you could look at work time B, make a copy of the point of view note catcher. Read the excerpt beginning, "What are you doing here?" on page 32 of Summer of the Mariposas, and ending at "It's not an emergency" on page 33 of Summer of the Mariposas. You're going to read that excerpt, pause the video while you do that, and then come back here and we will review exactly how you analyze a point of view in context. I'll see you guys in a few. Okay, glad you're back. Please make sure that you read that section so that you can follow along better. So the first thing that you want to think about when you're reading a novel is, from what point of view is the novel written and how do you know? So we know what point of view is. From what point of view is this novel written? And so we know that this is first person. The narrator says I. More specifically, your next thought is, well, who is the narrator and how do we know that? Now remember, your point of view and the narrator for this particular book is going to stay the same. Some books, that is not always the case. So Odelia is the narrator. She is the character who's telling the story. We know her thoughts, we know what she does, we know things about her that maybe the other characters don't. So let's look at the point of view note catcher. Let's look at that anchor chart. It asks you two different questions, and you are going to use what you know about point of view to get those questions going. So what do you, the reader, know that Mama doesn't? That's our first question. She goes, in this section of the text, she goes to her mom's job and they talk back and forth. They have this dialogue. and she wants to get something out, but her mom wants to be able to work. But we know something that the mother doesn't. So think about what that may be and write that down. Either type it or write it in your workbook. Okay, so we know that there is really an emergency because the girls found a dead body and they want to take it back to Mexico. So not only did they find a dead body, but they want to cross the border to return that body to their family. Odelia knows that, but Mama just wants to go to work. She has no idea what's going on. Now, this creates an effect. So, what effect does this create? Think about if think about the fact that you know there's this dead body. These girls who are underage are trying to leave the country and their mom is just kind of brushing them off. How does that make you feel? What feelings do you get from this? And that'll help you understand the effect. Take a second to jot that down. Okay, so this creates frustration. If you're like me, you're like, oh my goodness, would you listen to your daughter? Like you're getting so frustrated, even though they both have very good perspectives. Mama doesn't want to lose her job. She can't afford to. And Odelia is trying to balance between interrupting her mom and getting her in trouble or assessing the seriousness of this situation. So now this creates this sense of frustration. We want mama to listen to Odelia. We want for her to help solve this problem. And so the same way that we just move through, right? We know that this is first person. We know that Odelia is our narrator. And so that means that her or her sisters are going to know things that are different than other people. So you're going to use those same steps. Remember, the first thing we did is, well, what does the one character know that the other doesn't? That might also be, what does the reader know that the character doesn't? You do that part first, and then you use that knowledge. Think about your feelings, think about the differences, and about the effect. So what you guys are going to do is using an excerpt from chapter 2. We are still on chapter 2, guys. Complete the exit ticket. So you're practicing the exact same skills, except you are going to turn this in to your teacher. Once you are done, they will give you next steps. Hope that everyone has a wonderful day. Bye, y'all.